Okay, I'd like to do a series of videos, particularly dealing with the arrow, biconditionals related, uh, and how to deal with them. So, this video is going to be on if, right? So, standard form, if A then B, A arrow B. Now, this is more common than you might realize in ordinary English usage, that we tack the if on to the second half of the statement. I'll go if you go. I'll go if you go. Right? So and so's there. If, right? Bob is there. If Ann is, or Ann is there. If Bob is. Right? I don't know how this works in contracts, legal context, but again, those of you doing pre-law stuff, you will have to track this correctly regardless of the English wording, the syntax of the sentence, as we put it. Okay? So, if A then B is A arrow B. A if B, the if still marks the antecedent. Okay? Now, there's not going to be, this gets rough because things I'm going to tell you, you're going to want to say, well, then just flip the order. Then you have to read these sentences at the level of thinking carefully about their truth conditions. Okay? And A if B is saying, right? If B, so long as B, right? That's if wherever it shows up in the sentence indicates that sufficient condition. So long as B, then A. Or maybe even without B, A is true, right? So this is B arrow A. Now, I don't know whether it would be helpful, I kept the A and B in the right order, right? But if you get B if A, right, that's the same as if A then B. The point is the if here gets attached to the antecedent. It's an indicator of the antecedent, right? And hopefully you can see that the order is just a stylistic choice in English. It does not that's what's so key, and I want you to get it. I want you to think about before you write down your answers in your homework. Right? That's just the stylistic choice in English. If you go, I'll go. I'll go if you go. Same. Just put the if in a different part of the sentence. Okay? If A then B, A if B if A. If A, if A. Antecedent. Okay? The if goes with the antecedent. Okay? And we'll look at these in examples to get the word order pinned down. But I think that's your key guide. If goes with antecedent. If is the concept that says as long as, and so Hardigree is going to use some other synonyms, right? Provided that, and again, that does not matter where you put that in the sentence. Provided that A, right, B is true, is A arrow B, right? If you say B is true, right, you graduate provided that you pass, right? The provided that still goes with the antecedent, even if you put it second in the sentence. If you pass, then you graduate. Might be other ways to graduate. Maybe you don't have to pass this class. Maybe there's others, right? Provided that, if, so long as, right? Mark your antecedent, your sufficient condition. Okay. Give a couple examples of that just to pin that down. The Ann and Bob thing makes sense, but some of these others might help us with so long as, right? Right? If you have above a 60 average on all the homework scores, then you pass. Right? S arrow P. Right? S arrow P. Okay? Suppose there's other ways to pass, right? If there were other assignments, right? But sufficient. This is sufficient. This says it's sufficient. As long as you do this, you pass. There might be other ways to pass. But as long as you do this, you're guaranteed to pass, right? Right? And so that would be the same as provided that, so long as, and you can keep the same sentence but flip the order you say it, right? You pass if you have above a 60 average. Sufficient. Okay? Above 60 average. Right? That's still going to be S arrow P. Right? You pass provided that, as long as S arrow P. Okay? All right. So that's if. Wherever it shows up in the sentence, it marks the antecedent. And the same goes provided that so long as. Marks a sufficient condition, right? In case this example is confusing, right? You have to pass a Q class to graduate, right? So long as you pass logic, right? Let's say it's your last requirement, then you graduate. But of course, there's other Q classes you could pass, right? So this is efficient for graduating if it's your last requirement, but not necessary, right? There might be other Q classes you could pass to graduate, right? If provided that, so long as sufficient conditions. Sufficient conditions. Okay. Move on to only and only if, and look at word order with that and some related concepts.